to the Empowered Mothers Network podcast, supporting mothers to be the best version of themselves. I'm Sarah, and this is episode 12. I can never remember the number. I'm sure it's episode 12. It's episode 12, and today I am talking about collaboration versus competition. And I'm going to have to sort the lighting out for this podcast because the weather is just mad at the moment. 1 minute it's like blistering sunshine and you've got loads of light coming in, and then like the next it's gone into darkness again. I think I have missed the sunshine today, so this will maybe, I don't know, maybe by the time I'm recording this in like June, so maybe by the time we get to like the end of July I might have some sunshine. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about collaboration and competition, because I see this coming up a lot in not just my life, but people around me, and you know, you get loads of little things from different places that kind of all start saying the same thing, and this seemed like something good to talk about at the moment. I found a blog post actually that I wrote on collaboration, and I just checked the date, and it was 10 years ago, and a lot of things I'm now intuitively feeling to talk about are things that then I suddenly afterwards find that I've been writing blog posts about 10 years ago. So I feel it's like there's some kind of cycle going on here, I think. But yeah, I was talking about collaboration back in the day between businesses, which is something I'll touch on today, but I'm going to talk more about generally as mothers in society now about what's going on with that. So the first thing I wanted to say is why collaborate in the first place? Why would we want to? That brings me back to that saying, which is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I think when we come together and we collaborate, we can, again, if we can get over what I'm going to talk about, the competitive side of things, when we collaborate and come together, we can create something that just, we couldn't have done it on our own. And this is, again, what I'm trying to do with Empowered Mothers Network. It's not a lot of things that are making a change now in the world are things where people are collaborating. You can't have one person just changing the world on their own. We need really to, we are like a group species, and we need to be working more on kind of coming back to that element of collaboration. So, this podcast is for mothers generally. So why as mothers are we so competitive? And I think from my experience, I think we are, and I don't hold myself out of that circle for any second. We all have very similar struggles, maybe just in different circumstances. But as mums, you'll probably see, like, if you go to like school pickup or something, you'll see certain little cliques of mums. You've got like baby groups as well. You get competitiveness there, so you can feel the pressure of, like, if your child is not quite at the developmental milestone that the other children are then reaching, there's that element of competitiveness comes in there. It can often feel a bit like going back to secondary school again, especially when you're like, you've got the different like cliques, and sometimes you just feel like you're not fitting in, or you only fit in a certain group. So yeah, why are mothers so competitive? It's an evolution thing, because from an evolution point of view, I guess, we're mothers, we have young babies, children that we need to protect and, keep them alive essentially. So we're competitive in, if there's other mothers and children around, there might have been that element of evolution of it to kind of keep survival of our offspring and keep our bloodline going. Or is it kind of society as it stands now, which tends to like pit us against each other really in a way? And you've got other things like adverts for beauty and weight loss and things, and we're often like told constantly by TVs, radios, newspapers, whatever, internets, Instagrams, that we are not enough in some way, that we are too fat, too thin, too wrinkly. But yeah, we're always made to feel like we're not enough. And then that is often used as a way to kind of keep us like knocked down, as it were. And when we're kind of feeling like that kind of knocked down place, we then tend to see all the other things that are put out there, like all the other people who are having great lives, and look at this, and everything that's going well in their life, which is posted, but none of the bad stuff is. And then we start comparing and contrasting, and then the competitiveness kind of filters in from there. I think we're quite divided socially. Again, there's the argument of whether that's always been the case to this degree or whether it's getting more so. But that's not for this podcast. But we are. There is like a division, and I think you can see it on like a more of a global scale at the moment with like the wars around the world, and so many different levels you can see it on, where people of different groups, beliefs, backgrounds, preferences are like being pitted against each other essentially, and then all that kind of fuel and energy and fire is being directed into fighting against people that may just have different viewpoints or different beliefs. Yeah, and I think that works on like a parenting level as well. Again, it's very easy to do that via the medium of keyboard and screen because you're not face to face with somebody. But there is this kind of, social dividing, and I guess social media is like the worst type of platform for this at the moment in terms of like, photos and updates of people's lives. As I said, you get like the heavily edited and the good bits, but not necessarily all the bits that are really gnarly. Can we change to more of like an attitude of like, oh, she's managed to do such and such with her life, that means that I could do that too. If she can do it, so can I. Rather than the mentality of, oh, she's done that, why can't I do that? What's wrong with me? Why am I a bad person? Why could she have all this and I don't get that? And I think we do. I think we get sort of pushed into this almost like the sort of lack mentality, where if somebody's like, or we perceive that somebody's doing something really well, then that's like, oh, there's then none for us. It's them or us, the either or mentality. And then that feeds into like the victim mentality, as I say, like you can sometimes think, oh, well, they've got this, why don't I have that? Why am I a bad person? Why has that never happened to me? And then that can send us down the route of feeling victimised, and then again we can, if we're not careful, we can become more passive in that state and then not really kind of take control of our own lives as we are able to do. And of course all these mentalities, all these beliefs, whatever we're taking on board as our own, we are then passing down to our children and giving them those sort of beliefs and mentalities, and then the cycle continues. So all right, we can see from that quick outline that, nobody wants to necessarily, outside of competitive sports, be competitive. There are good aspects of being competitive in life, but mothers we're talking about, and competitiveness there, it often becomes this kind of toxic thing and generates beliefs, values and thoughts that just aren't helpful to anybody. If you're having them kind of thoughts about yourself, then you're knocking yourself down. And then also if you're getting annoyed or jealous or irritable or, feeling bad towards somebody who does perceivably have it all, then you're also kind of directing some toxicity their way, and that's not really helping them either. So it doesn't benefit anybody. So how do we move away from competition? Again, it's watching the thoughts, and I've talked about this We're getting some sunshine. I'm talked about watching your thoughts in previous podcasts and whiffled on about it in previous blog posts. And it is so important to kind of catch yourself if you are getting in that thought pattern of she's got this, I haven't. You know, where is that thought pattern going? Is it sending you down into, oh, I feel like the victim, this is awful, why would this happen to me? Or are you feeling more like the thoughts are coming in of what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? There must be something wrong with me to not be able to do what they're doing. So again, it all boils down to that, going right back to the beginning and stepping into the present moment. And it's so repetitive, but it's so needed, especially nowadays, of stepping into the present moment and really kind of working on becoming an observer of your own thoughts and seeing what those thoughts are and what patterns and lines of thought they are going down, where we're going with this. And as we are more aware of what we're thinking in these situations, we can work towards changing that narrative in our head from the they have it, I don't, more to the she's done it or she's got it, that means that I can too. How else to move away from competition? I think being more selective about the people that we have around us. So having people around us that really kind of have our backs, cheerleaders, support us and us to them, because it's a two-way process. You know, people that there's a mutual support there's a mutual kind of cheerleading. And, you know, that might then look like, in terms of like a social circle, that's probably not that many people, because we've all got busy lives. Many of us have a partner. We've got however many kids we've got. Many of us have jobs. We only have a finite amount of time, and to have those people in your life where you are really kind of invested in them succeeding and them doing well in life as well as they are you, takes a certain amount of time and energy and compassion and love. And I don't think you can really have that on the scale of like a larger social circle. It depends on obviously how much time you have available and how much kind of resources you have to give as a person that aren't being, you know, given to other people or situations. But generally that having those sort of close people in your life is just sort of a couple, rather than, you know, having loads of like friends in a social circle that are maybe more on a superficial kind of level. So it might be time to just, you know, have a quick take stock of like the group of the social group you have, that you participate in, that you have around you. Have you got people that, you know, you can really be invested mutually in, like not only their well-being but their ability to really make waves and progress and grow as a person? Or do you think you have a group where it's maybe, you know, it's people that you like, but you're just, it's more like a superficial level and you're maybe just trying to fit in more? And that reminds me of that nice quote by Brené Brown, which is, the opposite of belonging is fitting in. I think belonging is like what we're truly searching for deep inside. And so often nowadays we end up just trying to mute ourselves or just skew ourselves, change ourselves just a little bit so we are sort of fitting in with more of a group of people. And yeah, there is a big difference. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily think belonging and fitting in are opposite just off the top of your head, but the more you look into it, you know, the more you have to kind of skew who you are just that little bit to fit in with everybody, and you're moving them further away from who you truly are and true belonging. A lot of social groups, you tend to find a lot of social groups where people are really, you know, trying to fit in together, are the ones where there is rampant competitiveness between people. bitching, gossiping behind backs. I mean, it's like them shows on telly, isn't it? Like Real Housewives type shows, which I used to watch back in the day occasionally for research purposes. But you see all the like sniping and backstabbing, and it's just, oh no. Right, so we've got some ideas there on, too much competitiveness, toxic competitiveness being pants, and how we can start moving away from that. So how do we then collaborate with people? We're getting rid of the old unhelpful ways of being. We want to bring the newer things in that are more helpful. So collaboration and how we move towards that. I think, back in the day, there was a lot more collaboration in your local community. And to a degree, that's still apparent in some local communities, but not in others. I think things have changed, and what we saw as communities back in the day and what has gone before are kind of mostly gone now. And I've got a lot of posts about building your village, things like that after you've had a baby, and that sort of touches on not it would be nice to have everybody locally in your local community accessible to you face to face on foot, but it doesn't always pan out like that anymore. And there's this deliberation of whether we can go back to that, or whether that's something we can't necessarily 100% move back to anymore. A lot of them are gone, but I think we do have the capability to forge these sort of like the new version of collaborative communities. It doesn't necessarily, to work, have to look like it did before. I still feel like it's really useful to build groups and collaborate with people on a face-to-face basis, but it might look like, say if you're thinking of the local community, it might look like pitching in for a local event to help and collaborate with that, or a local group for something, a committee. It might look like a mastermind group where you all kind of pitch in and listen to each other's ideas, lift each other up. That can then peter through into things like women in business, so collaborative groups to help other mums or other women in business lift each other up and get each other going through like the pitfalls of starting a business and really growing and thriving. And it might look like a women's circle, just where you go and share your stories, and you've got somebody there with people where you do feel like you belong, where you feel safe, where you feel you can share your vulnerability and your stories that you need to be sharing. And obviously, in terms of collaborating, some of the practical skills we need is the ability to really be open to other people's viewpoints, and knowing that most of the time is going to be at least one other person who's got a viewpoint different to you, and that ability to really listen as well, which is a skill that we're not taught nowadays so well. And it's really a practice. It's an ongoing practice, but to really sit with people and be able to listen to them, that is a skill, and that's really useful for collaboration. And also, I think when we are collaborating, that this idea, which again I've been talking about in previous podcasts, of stepping into our own power, being really in touch with who we are and being our authentic self, and not trying to skew ourselves a little bit to fit in with everybody else. But once we're really in our own power and sure and confident of who we are, then we can sort of collaborate much more effectively, because we don't tend to feel as threatened by other people, so there's less of that threat of competitiveness and comparison coming in again, and we can more effectively collaborate and share resources as well. So again, that brings me back to the phrase of a rising tide lifts all boats. So that's just a little one there about collaboration and competition. I know some people in business, particularly over the years, who have been creating some really amazing things simply by, stepping out of their own bubble and just collaborating with other people, and really kind of subscribing to that ethos of the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. There's people who've done some fantastic things. So I'd be really interested to know your views on, competition as well. Do you have the mums in the playground clique thing? Do you struggle to fit in, or have you just kind of rejected that completely, and you're going on your own path? And any ideas for collaboration as well? You have maybe in your local community is coming together to collaborate, or maybe you've got a group online who have found a really fantastic way to collaborate. And again, as I say, with Empowered Mothers Network, collaboration is something I really want to bring into it, because it's a network. That's why I called it a network, because that's, I think, a big part of how I see it. And especially as mothers, we can't continue to live in this individualistic way, because we're just burning out, expecting ourselves maybe, or being expected to do too much. It's just not really working out for us as a single entity. We really need to collaborate now. So important. So if you want to join the Empowered Mothers Network community, you can hit subscribe and keep up to date with these podcasts on YouTube, or you can go to the website and sign up for the mailing list there. And again, I've mentioned earlier in this podcast actually about social media fueling comparison and competitiveness, and we do have the social media on. I do have the Instagram now, that occasionally I use, but like most of the time I'm kind of staying off social media there, because it just becomes, again, too all consuming. So email list is the best way to keep in touch. Other than that, I will see you soon for the next podcast episode.